The slap happened so fast that for a moment, no one in the restaurant moved. Keisha felt it before she understood it. The sharp crack of skin against skin. The heat spreading across her left cheek. The ringing in her ear that made everything sound distant and wrong. She stood there, her hand halfway to her face, staring at the woman who had just struck her. Mrs. Yoon didn't lower her hand immediately. She held it there, suspended in the air between them, as if the act itself needed to be examined. Appreciated. Understood. Then she lowered it slowly and smoothed the front of her dress. Clean it properly this time, she said. Keisha's throat was tight. She couldn't speak. Couldn't move. The entire dining room had gone silent. Customers at other tables had stopped eating. The kitchen staff had appeared in the doorway. Even the sound of traffic outside seemed to have paused. Mrs. Yoon turned back to her table as if nothing had happened. As if slapping a waitress was as unremarkable as sending back a dish that wasn't prepared correctly. Keisha's manager, David, appeared beside her. He was a thin man in his 40s who always looked tired. Right now, he looked terrified. "Go to the back," he whispered. "Now." Keisha walked. She didn't run. She didn't cry. She just walked through the kitchen, past the line cooks who wouldn't meet her eyes, past the dishwasher who looked at her with something like pity, and into the small office that smelled like cigarettes and old coffee. She sat down in the chair by the desk and pressed her fingers against her cheek. It was still burning. David came in 30 seconds later and closed the door. "What happened?" he asked. "I spilled water," Keisha said. Her voice sounded strange. Flat. A few drops. On the edge of her plate. "I apologized. I offered to replace the plate. She said I was careless. She said I wasn't paying attention. Then she didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to." David ran his hand through his hair. "Okay. Okay. Did anyone else see it?" "Everyone saw it." "Did she say anything?" "After?" "She told me to clean it properly this time." David closed his eyes. "Christ. I want to call the police," Keisha said. "No. She assaulted me." "I know. But you can't call the police." "Why not?" David looked at her. Really looked at her. And in his eyes, she saw something that made her stomach turn. Fear. "Do you know who that woman is?" he asked. "A customer. That's Mrs. Yoon. Her family owns half the buildings in this neighborhood. Including this one." Keisha felt something cold settle in her chest. So if you call the police, she'll make a complaint. She'll say you were rude. She'll say you threatened her. She'll say whatever she needs to say. And this restaurant will be gone in a month. That's not legal. Legal doesn't matter when you have money." Keisha stood up. "I'm not just going to." "You don't have to do anything," David said quickly. "Just go home. Take the rest of the night off. Paid. I'll handle the table. You just go home and don't do anything until we figure this out." "Figure what out?" "How to make this go away." Keisha stared at him. "You want me to pretend it didn't happen. I want you to keep your job. And I want to keep mine. And I want this restaurant to still exist tomorrow." "She hit me." "I know. And you're going to do nothing." David didn't answer. He didn't need to. Keisha grabbed her bag from the locker and left through the back door. She didn't say goodbye to anyone. She didn't look back. The night air was cold against her face. The side that had been slapped felt hot and swollen. She walked 3 blocks before she stopped and leaned against a wall. Then she cried. Not because it hurt. It did hurt, but that wasn't why she cried. She cried because she was 26 years old and she had been working since she was 16 and she had never, not once, been treated like she didn't matter. Until tonight. She pulled out her phone and called her mother. "Baby," her mother answered on the second ring. "It's late. You okay?" Keisha opened her mouth to say yes. To say she was fine. To say it was nothing. Instead, she told her everything. Her mother listened without interrupting. When Keisha finished, there was a long silence. "Did your manager see it?" her mother asked finally. "Yes." "And he told you not to call the police?" "Yes." "Because this woman has money?" "Yes." Her mother sighed. It was a sound Keisha had heard her whole life. The sound of someone who'd fought too many battles and knew exactly how they ended. "Come home," her mother said. "We'll figure it out tomorrow." "I don't want to figure it out." "I want to." "I know what you want. But wanting and doing are different things. Come home. Please." Keisha went home. She took the bus because she couldn't afford a cab. She sat in the back and watched the city slide past the window. All those buildings. All those lights. All those people living lives that didn't include getting slapped by strangers in restaurants. When she got home, her mother was waiting up. She made tea that Keisha didn't drink and sat across from her at the small kitchen table. "Let me see," her mother said. Keisha turned her face. Her mother reached out and touched the cheek gently. Her fingers were warm. "It'll bruise," her mother said. "I know. You can't go back there. I need the job. Not that job. Not with people who let this happen. Mama, I have rent. I have bills. I have. I know what you have. But you also have dignity. And if you go back there and pretend this didn't happen, you lose that. And once you lose it, you don't get it back." Keisha looked at her mother. At this woman who'd worked as a housekeeper for 30 years. Who'd cleaned other people's homes and raised other people's children and smiled when she wanted to scream. "What did you do?" Keisha asked. "When it happened to you?" Her mother smiled sadly. "I pretended it didn't happen. And I regretted it every day since. So what do I do?" "You quit. You find another job. You move on. That's not justice. No. It's survival. Justice is for people who can afford lawyers." Keisha didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, her cheek throbbing, her mind racing. She thought about Mrs. Yoon. About the way she'd looked at Keisha like she was nothing. Like she was an obstacle. A problem to be corrected with violence. She thought about David. About how quickly he'd chosen the restaurant over her. Over what was right. She thought about all the times she'd seen injustice and done nothing. Because she was tired. Because she was scared. Because fighting seemed impossible. But this time felt different. This time, it had happened to her. The next morning, Keisha called the restaurant. David answered. "I'm quitting," she said. "Keisha, wait. I'm not coming back. Mail me my last check. Please. Just think about." She hung up. Then she called a lawyer. The consultation was free. The lawyer was a woman in her 50s with gray hair and kind eyes. She listened to Keisha's story, took notes, and then set down her pen. "I believe you," she said. "But belief and proof are different things. People saw it happen. Will they testify?" Keisha thought about the other servers. About the kitchen staff. About the customers who'd watched and then gone back to their meals. "I don't know," she said. Even if they do, this woman has resources. She'll hire the best lawyers. She'll drag this out for years. And at the end of it, even if you win, the settlement probably won't cover your legal fees. So there's nothing I can do. I didn't say that. I said it won't be easy. Or quick. Or guaranteed. Keisha looked at the lawyer. What would you do? The lawyer was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I'd make noise. I'd go to the media. I'd tell the story everywhere I could. Because people like Mrs. Yoon count on silence. They count on you being too scared or too tired to fight back. But if you refuse to be silent, if you make it public, sometimes that's enough. Enough for what? Enough to make them think twice before they do it to someone else. Keisha went to the local news station that afternoon. The reporter who met with her was young, maybe 30, with perfectly styled hair and a smile that looked practiced. She listened to Keisha's story while a camera operator filmed from the side. This is good, the reporter said when Keisha finished. This is exactly the kind of story people care about right now. David versus Goliath. Power versus justice. It's not a story, Keisha said. It's what happened to me. Of course. I just meant, this will resonate. Can you come back tomorrow? We'll do a proper segment. Get some B-roll of the restaurant. Maybe try to get a comment from Mrs. Yoon. Will it help? Will it help what? Will it make a difference? Will it change anything? The reporter's smile faltered slightly. It'll raise awareness. It'll start a conversation. But will it stop her from doing it again? The reporter didn't answer. The segment aired 3 days later. Keisha watched it at home with her mother. They'd used about 40 seconds of the 15-minute interview. They'd edited it to make Keisha sound angrier than she'd been. They'd shown the outside of the restaurant but blurred the name. They'd mentioned Mrs. Yoon's family but not her name. At the end, the anchor said, "We reached out to the family for comment but have not yet received a response. This is an ongoing story, and we'll continue to follow it as it develops." Keisha's phone started ringing immediately. Friends. Former co-workers. People she hadn't talked to in years. Everyone wanted to know if she was okay. Everyone wanted to express their support. Everyone wanted to tell her how brave she was. No one wanted to help her pay rent. By the end of the week, the story had faded. Other news took its place. Other injustices. Other outrages. Keisha applied for jobs. Restaurants. Coffee shops. Retail stores. Half of them never called back. The other half asked if she was the girl from the news, and then said they'd decided to go with another candidate. Her mother offered to lend her money. Keisha refused. She had some savings. Not much, but enough for another month. Maybe 2 if she was careful. She was careful. She stopped taking the bus and walked everywhere. She stopped buying coffee. She ate rice and beans and whatever was on sale. She started to understand what her manager had meant when he said legal doesn't matter when you have money. Because money meant options. Money meant lawyers and time and the ability to wait out your opponent. And Keisha had none of those things. 2 months after the slap, she was sitting in her apartment trying to decide which bill to pay first when someone knocked on her door. She looked through the peephole. A man in a suit stood in the hallway holding a briefcase. He was young, Asian, with dark hair and an expression that gave nothing away. Keisha opened the door but left the chain on. "Can I help you? Are you Keisha Williams?" "Who's asking?" "My name is Jean Cross. I work for the Yoon family. I'd like to speak with you about the incident at the restaurant." Keisha's stomach dropped. "I have nothing to say to you. I understand. But I think you'll want to hear what I have to say. Are you here to threaten me?" No. I'm here to apologize. Keisha stared at him. What? May I come in? This won't take long. Every instinct told her to slam the door. To call the police. To do anything except let this man into her home. But something in his voice stopped her. Something that sounded almost like sincerity. She closed the door, undid the chain, and opened it again. Gene Cross stepped inside. He looked around the small apartment, the worn furniture, the peeling paint, the stack of bills on the counter, and something in his expression shifted. Just slightly. Thank you for seeing me, he said. You said you wanted to apologize. Yes. So apologize. Gene set his briefcase down and stood there, his hands at his sides. What my mother did to you was wrong. Inexcusable. And I'm sorry. The words hung in the air between them. Your mother, Keisha said slowly. Yes. Mrs. Yoon is my mother. Keisha felt like she'd been punched. Get out. Please. Just listen. Get out of my apartment right now or I'm calling the police. I'm not here to make excuses for her. I'm here because what she did was assault. And you deserve compensation. Keisha's hand was on her phone. You're trying to buy my silence. No. I'm trying to make things right. By throwing money at me? By acknowledging what happened and offering restitution. There's a difference. Not to me. Gene was quiet for a moment. Then he said, my mother is a cruel woman. She's been cruel her entire life. She's cruel to her family. She's cruel to her employees. She's cruel to anyone she perceives as beneath her. And I've spent my whole life watching it happen and doing nothing. So now you feel guilty. Yes. I feel guilty. Is that so hard to believe? Keisha looked at him. Really looked at him. He was younger than she'd first thought. Maybe early 30s. His suit was expensive but rumpled. His eyes were tired. He looked like someone who hadn't slept well in a long time. Why now? She asked. Why come here 2 months later? Because I saw the news report. I saw what happened to you afterward. How you lost your job. How no one else would hire you. And I realized my mother didn't just slap you. She destroyed your life. And I won't let that stand. What do you want from me? Nothing. I want to give you something. Compensation for what my mother did. Enough to cover your lost wages. Enough to help you start over. How much? Gene picked up his briefcase and opened it. Inside were papers. Contracts. And a check. He handed her the check. Keisha looked at the amount and felt dizzy. $50,000. This is too much, she said. It's not enough. But it's what I can give you without my family interfering. I don't want your money. What do you want? The question surprised her. No one had asked her that. Not her mother. Not the lawyer. Not the reporter. Everyone had told her what she should want. What she should do. What was realistic. But no one had asked what she actually wanted. I want your mother to apologize, Keisha said. To my face. In front of witnesses. I want her to admit what she did was wrong. Jin's expression didn't change. That won't happen. Then keep your money. You don't understand. My mother would rather burn every building she owns than admit she made a mistake. Then we have nothing to talk about. Keisha held out the check. Gene didn't take it. Keep it, he said. Think about it. You don't have to decide right now. I already decided. Then decide again tomorrow. And the day after that. And when you're ready to accept help, call me. He pulled a business card from his pocket and set it on the counter. That's my direct line. Not the family office. Not my assistant. Me. He walked to the door and paused with his hand on the handle. For what it's worth, he said, I admire you. Most people would have taken the money and walked away. You're asking for something money can't buy. That takes courage. Or stupidity, Keisha said. Sometimes they're the same thing. He left. Keisha stood there holding the check, staring at the door he'd just walked through. $50,000. Enough to pay her rent for a year. Enough to finish her education. Enough to never worry about which bill to pay first. All she had to do was take it. All she had to do was let Mrs. Yoon win. She looked at the check for a long time. Then she put it in a drawer and tried to forget about it. But she couldn't forget. Because the question Jean had asked kept echoing in her mind. What do you want? Not what was practical. Not what was realistic. Not what would make her life easier. What did she actually want? She wanted justice. Real justice. Not a settlement. Not compensation. Not money that would let her move on while Mrs. Yoon continued being cruel to the next person who spilled water on her plate. She wanted Mrs. Yoon to face consequences. But how? The lawyer had said going to court would take years and cost more than Keisha could afford. The news had already moved on to other stories. David had made it clear he wouldn't testify against the woman who owned his building. Keisha had no power. No resources. No way to fight someone like Mrs. Yoon. Except she had something Mrs. Yoon didn't expect. She had Jin's phone number. It took her 3 days to work up the courage to call. Jean answered on the second ring. This is Jean. It's Keisha Williams. There was a pause. Then, have you thought about my offer? Yes. And I have a counteroffer. I'm listening. I'll take the money. But only if you do something for me first. What do you need? I need you to tell me everything about your mother. Everything that would make her vulnerable. Everything she's hiding. Everything she wouldn't want people to know. The silence on the other end of the line lasted so long that Keisha thought he'd hung up. Then Jean said, Why? Because I can't beat her with money or lawyers or connections. But maybe I can beat her with the truth. The truth about what? About who she really is. About all the other people she's hurt. About everything your family has done to get where you are. That's a dangerous game. I'm already playing it. I just need better cards. Jean was quiet again. When he spoke, his voice was different. Harder. If I give you this information, I'm betraying my family. Yes. They'll destroy me. Probably. So why would I do it? Because you said what your mother did was wrong. And you said you wanted to make things right. Now I'm giving you the chance. Another pause. Longer this time. I need to think about this, Jean said finally. How long? A week. Maybe less. I'll call you. He hung up. Keisha set down the phone and waited. The call came 5 days later. Not from Jean, but from an unknown number. Hello? Meet me at the coffee shop on 5th and Madison. Tomorrow at 9. Come alone. It was Jin's voice, but strained. Urgent. What's wrong? Keisha asked. Just be there. He hung up. Keisha didn't sleep that night. She kept thinking about the tone of his voice. About what it might mean. About what she was getting herself into. At 8:30 the next morning, she left her apartment and took the bus to 5th and Madison. The coffee shop was small and nearly empty. Gene was sitting in the back corner, wearing jeans and a baseball cap. He looked exhausted. Keisha sat down across from him. "What happened?" "I told my family I was going to help you. They didn't take it well." "How badly?" Gene pulled off his cap. There was a bruise along his jawline, still fresh and purple. "That badly," he said. Keisha felt something twist in her chest. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. This was my choice." He pulled a folder from his bag and slid it across the table. "This is everything. Every shady deal. Every bribe. Every person my family has intimidated or silenced or destroyed. All of it." Keisha opened the folder. Inside were documents. Financial records. Photographs. Testimony from people who'd been too afraid to speak publicly. "Where did you get all this?" she asked. "I've been collecting it for years. I always told myself I'd use it someday. To hold over my family. To protect myself. But I never thought I'd actually give it to someone outside the family." "Why are you giving it to me?" Gene looked at her. "Because you asked what I wanted to do. No one's ever asked me that before. Everyone just assumes I want what my family wants. Power. Money. Control. But I don't want any of that. I just want to stop feeling complicit." Keisha closed the folder. "If I use this, your family will know it came from you." "I know. They'll come after you." "I know. You'll lose everything." "I already have." He stood up. "Use it. Don't use it. That's up to you. But if you do use it, make it count. Because I can only do this once." He walked out of the coffee shop without looking back. Keisha sat there holding the folder, feeling its weight. This was what she'd asked for. The truth. The ammunition. The way to fight back. But now that she had it, she wasn't sure she could use it. Because using it meant destroying Jin's life. It meant escalating this far beyond a slap in a restaurant. It meant starting a war she might not be able to finish. She thought about what her mother had said. About dignity and survival. About choosing your battles. She thought about what the lawyer had said. About making noise. About refusing to be silent. She thought about what Gene had said. About being complicit. About wanting to make things right. And she made a decision. She took the folder home, read through every document, and started making calls. To journalists. To lawyers. To advocacy groups that worked with assault victims. To anyone who might be able to help her build a case. Most of them listened politely and then explained why it would be difficult. Why it would take time. Why she shouldn't get her hopes up. But one person was different. Her name was Angela Chen, and she was an investigative journalist who'd been trying to write about the Yoon family for years. "I've heard rumors," Angela said when they met for coffee. "About bribes. About intimidation. About businesses being destroyed. But I could never prove anything. Everyone's too scared to talk." "I have proof," Keisha said. She showed Angela the folder. Angela's eyes went wide. "Where did you get this?" "From someone inside the family." "Who?" "That doesn't matter. What matters is that it's real. And I'm willing to go on record." Angela leaned back in her chair. "If I publish this, it's going to get ugly. The Yoons will come after you with everything they have. Lawyers. Private investigators. They'll dig into every aspect of your life looking for anything they can use against you." "I know. And you're willing to risk that?" "I'm already living it. At this point, I have nothing left to lose. Angela studied her for a long moment. Then she nodded. Okay. Let's do this. But I need to verify everything first. Cross-check the documents. Find corroborating sources. This needs to be airtight. How long will that take? A month. Maybe 6 weeks. That's a long time. That's how long it takes to build a case that won't fall apart the moment their lawyers get involved. Keisha thought about it. About waiting another month. About living in this limbo where she knew the truth but couldn't do anything with it yet. But she'd waited this long already. What was another 6 weeks? Okay, she said. Do it right. Angela took the folder and promised to stay in touch. For the next month and a half, Keisha heard nothing. She got a job at a grocery store, stocking shelves and running the register. It didn't pay well, but it paid. She moved into a cheaper apartment. She started rebuilding her life in small, careful ways. And she waited. Finally, Angela called. It's ready, she said. The article publishes tomorrow morning. I wanted to give you a heads up. What did you find? Everything. Bribery. Fraud. Tax evasion. Intimidation. And that's just the financial crimes. The personal stuff, the way they've treated people, the lives they've destroyed, it's worse than I imagined. Did you mention me? You're in the opening. The slap. That's the hook. But the story is bigger than that now. It's about a family that's been operating above the law for decades. Keisha felt her heart racing. What happens next? Tomorrow morning, my editor sends the story to the Yuns for comment. Standard practice. They'll have 24 hours to respond before we publish. Then it goes live. Will they try to stop it? They'll try. But we have everything documented. We have lawyers who've reviewed it. We're protected. What about Gene? Did you mention him? No. I kept my sources anonymous. But if the Yuns are smart, they'll figure out where the information came from. After Angela hung up, Keisha sat in her apartment and tried to process what was about to happen. Tomorrow, the world would know what the Yun family had done. Tomorrow, Mrs. Yun would face consequences. Tomorrow, everything would change. Unless it didn't. Unless the Yuns found a way to bury the story. Unless their lawyers killed it before publication. Unless all of this was for nothing. Keisha tried to sleep but couldn't. At 3 a.m, her phone rang. It was Gene. Did you do it? He asked. His voice was quiet, strained. Yes. The article publishes tomorrow? Yes. How did you know? Because my family just received a request for comment from a journalist named Angela Chen. Keisha sat up. What are they going to do? Everything they can to stop it. They've already called their lawyers. They're talking about filing an injunction. About suing the newspaper. About. He trailed off. About what? About finding out who gave the journalist the information. Gene. It's okay. I knew this was coming. I'm ready for it. I'm sorry. I didn't want to. Don't apologize. You're doing what I should have done years ago. You're standing up to them. I'm proud of you. What are you going to do? I don't know yet. But whatever happens, I want you to know, this was worth it. Even if it costs me everything, it was worth it. Gene. I have to go. Be safe, Keisha. And don't back down. No matter what they do, don't back down. He hung up. Keisha sat in the dark, her phone still in her hand, and waited for morning. The article published at 6 a.m. Keisha was awake when it happened. She'd been awake all night, refreshing the newspaper's website every few minutes, waiting. When it finally appeared, the headline was simple and devastating. The Yoon Empire, How One Family Built Fortune on Fear. Below it was a photograph of Mrs. Yoon at a charity gala, smiling in a designer dress that probably cost more than Keisha made in a year. The article began with the slap. Angela had written it exactly as Keisha had described it. The restaurant. The water. The casual violence. The silence that followed. Then it expanded. Page after page of documented abuse. Business owners forced to sell at unfair prices. Employees dismissed without cause and blacklisted from the industry. Competitors destroyed through harassment and intimidation. Building code violations ignored because inspectors had been bribed. Tax fraud stretching back 15 years. And through it all, a family that believed they were untouchable. By 7 a.m., Keisha's phone was ringing constantly. Friends. Former co-workers. People from the news asking for interviews. She ignored all of them except one. Her mother. "Baby, are you safe?" her mother asked. "Yes." "Are you sure?" "Because this is big." "I know. These people are dangerous." "I know that too." Her mother was quiet for a moment. "I'm proud of you. Your father would be proud too." Keisha felt tears sting her eyes. "Thank you. But baby? Lock your doors. And if anything feels wrong, you call the police. You hear me?" "I hear you." By 8 a.m., the story had spread. Other news outlets were picking it up. Social media was exploding. People were sharing the article, adding their own stories about the Yoon family, about times they'd been mistreated or intimidated. The flood had started. At 9 a.m., Keisha's phone rang from an unknown number. She almost didn't answer. But something made her pick up. "Keisha Williams?" A woman's voice. Professional. Cold. "Yes?" "This is Patricia Morrison. I'm an attorney representing the Yoon family. We need to discuss this article that was published this morning." Keisha's stomach tightened. "I have nothing to say to you. Miss Williams, the statements you made in this article are defamatory and false. My clients are prepared to pursue legal action unless you immediately retract your claims and issue a public apology." "I'm not retracting anything. Everything I said was true. I strongly advise you to retain counsel. We'll be filing suit by the end of the day. Do what you need to do." Keisha hung up. Her hands were shaking. She'd expected this, but knowing it was coming and experiencing it were different things. 5 minutes later, Angela called. "They just threatened to sue me too," Angela said. "And the newspaper. They're going full scorched earth." "What does that mean?" "It means they're desperate. Which means we hit them where it hurts." "Will the newspaper back down?" "Hell no. We have everything documented. Let them sue. It'll just generate more publicity." After Angela hung up, Keisha sat in silence, trying to steady her breathing. This was what she'd wanted. To make Mrs. Yoon face consequences. To expose the truth. But now that it was happening, the reality felt overwhelming. At 10 a.m., there was a knock on her door. Keisha looked through the peephole and saw a man in a delivery uniform holding a large envelope. She opened the door with the chain on. "What is it?" "Delivery for Keisha Williams. Need you to sign." She signed. He handed her the envelope and left. Inside was a lawsuit. 20 pages of legal language that boiled down to one thing: the Yoon family was suing her for $10 million in damages. Keisha read through it once, then set it on the table. $10 million. She wanted to laugh. She wanted to cry. She couldn't do either. Instead, she called the lawyer she'd consulted months ago. "I saw the article," the lawyer said. "I was wondering if you'd call. They're suing me." "I know. I saw the filing. It's aggressive, but it's also desperate. They're trying to intimidate you into silence." "Is it working?" "That depends. Are you planning to back down?" Keisha thought about Mrs. Yoon's hand raised in the air. About the sound of the slap. About the way everyone had looked away. "No," she said. "I'm not backing down." "Good. Then we fight. I'll work pro bono. This case is exactly the kind of thing I went to law school for." "Why?" "Because I'm tired of people with money thinking they can get away with anything. And because someone needs to tell them they're wrong." Over the next week, things moved quickly. The Yoon family held a press conference. Mrs. Yoon appeared in a conservative dress, her hair pulled back, her expression composed. She denied everything. "These allegations are completely false," she said, reading from a prepared statement. "They're the work of a disgruntled former employee who's trying to extort my family for money. We've done nothing wrong, and we'll prove that in court." She didn't mention the slap. She didn't acknowledge Keisha by name. She just dismissed the entire thing as a fabrication. But the internet didn't believe her. More people came forward with stories. A restaurant owner who'd been forced to sell his business after refusing to pay protection money. An employee who'd been fired for reporting safety violations. A tenant who'd been evicted without cause when she complained about black mold. The stories kept coming. And through it all, the Yoon family remained silent except for their lawyers. 10 days after the article published, Keisha got another call. "Jean. Are you okay?" he asked. "I'm being sued for $10 million, but other than that, I'm great." "I'm sorry." "Don't be. This was my choice." "It was my choice too." He paused. "They know it was me. They know I gave you the information." "What did they do?" "They cut me off. Financially. Removed me from all family businesses. Told me I'm no longer welcome at family gatherings. My uncle is trying to have me arrested for theft of proprietary information." "Jean, I'm so sorry. I told you not to apologize." "I meant it." His voice was firm. "This is the best thing I've ever done. For the first time in my life, I don't feel like I'm drowning." "What are you going to do?" "I don't know yet. But I'll figure it out." "What about you? How are you holding up?" "Honestly? I'm terrified. But I'm also, I don't know. Relieved? Like I finally stopped carrying something heavy." "I know exactly what you mean." They talked for another 20 minutes. About the lawsuit. About the public response. About what came next. When they hung up, Keisha realized something. Jean had become a friend. Somewhere in this mess, in this impossible situation, they'd found something real. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for 6 weeks after the lawsuit was filed. Keisha spent those weeks preparing. Her lawyer, Sarah Chen, a woman who'd made her career defending people who couldn't afford to defend themselves, walked her through everything. "They're going to try to discredit you," Sarah said. "They'll dig into your past. Find anything they can use. Past jobs. Relationships. Traffic tickets. Anything that makes you look unreliable. I don't have anything to hide. Everyone has something. Even if it's not bad, they'll make it look bad. That's how this works." Sarah was right. The Yoon family's lawyers filed motion after motion, each one trying to paint Keisha as vindictive, opportunistic, a liar. They brought up a time she'd been late on rent 3 years ago. They found a negative performance review from a job she'd held when she was 19. They even tried to use the fact that she'd appeared on the news as evidence that she was seeking attention. But Sarah fought back on every front. She filed motions of her own. She presented evidence of Mrs. Yoon's pattern of behavior. She found witnesses willing to testify about similar incidents. And she made it clear that Keisha wasn't going to be intimidated. The preliminary hearing was held on a cold morning in November. Keisha arrived at the courthouse an hour early. Sarah met her on the steps. "Ready?" Sarah asked. "No. But I'm here anyway." They went inside. The courtroom was smaller than Keisha had imagined. Wood paneling. Fluorescent lights. Rows of benches that were mostly empty except for a few journalists and curious observers. Mrs. Yoon sat at the plaintiff's table with 3 lawyers in expensive suits. She looked exactly as she had in the restaurant. Perfectly composed. Completely confident. She didn't look at Keisha once. The judge was a woman in her 60s with reading glasses and an expression that suggested she'd seen everything. She called the court to order and asked both sides to present their opening statements. The Yoon family's lead attorney stood. His name was Richard Hartman, and his suit probably cost more than Keisha's car. "Your Honor," he began, "this case is simple. The defendant, Miss Williams, made false and defamatory statements about my client in a major publication. These statements have caused irreparable harm to my client's reputation and business interests. We're here today to seek justice and compensation for that harm." He sat down. Sarah stood. "Your Honor, this case is indeed simple. But not in the way Mr. Hartman suggests. This is a case about a powerful woman who assaulted a young waitress and is now trying to use the legal system to silence her. The statements Miss Williams made were true. They were corroborated by witnesses and documented evidence. And my client has every right to speak about what happened to her." Sarah sat down. The judge looked at both sides. "I've reviewed the motions and the evidence submitted. Mr. Hartman, you're asking for $10 million in damages. That's a substantial sum. What's your basis for that figure?" Hartman stood again. "Your Honor, my client has suffered significant business losses as a result of this article. Tenants have broken their leases. Business partners have withdrawn from deals. The family's reputation, built over decades, has been severely damaged. $10 million is actually conservative given the scope of the harm." The judge turned to Sarah. "Miss Chen, you filed a motion to dismiss. Your argument?" "Yes, Your Honor. The suit is meritless. Everything in the article was factually accurate. My client participated in a news story about her own assault. That's protected speech under the First Amendment. The Yoon family is trying to use the threat of financial ruin to silence someone who spoke the truth about their actions. Do you have witnesses who can corroborate your client's version of events?" "We do, Your Honor. We have employees from the restaurant who witnessed the assault. We have other victims of the Yoon family's intimidation tactics who are willing to testify. And we have documentation of the family's pattern of silencing anyone who speaks against them." The judge made notes. "Mr. Hartman, do you dispute that the physical altercation occurred?" Hartman hesitated. "Just for a second. But Keisha saw it." "Your Honor, my client maintains that the incident has been grossly mischaracterized. There was a brief, inadvertent contact resulting from a misunderstanding." "A slap is inadvertent contact," the judge interrupted. "A momentary loss of composure that has been blown entirely out of proportion by the defendant and the media." "I see. And the other allegations in the article? The bribery, the intimidation, the business practices?" "All false, Your Honor. Completely fabricated." "Miss Chen, you say you have documentation?" "Extensive documentation, Your Honor. Financial records. Correspondence. Testimony from multiple witnesses. The judge leaned back in her chair. I'm going to take this under advisement. Both sides will submit additional briefs within 2 weeks. I'll issue a ruling after that. Court is adjourned. The gavel came down. Keisha stood on shaky legs. Sarah touched her arm. That went well, Sarah said. It did? The judge didn't dismiss our motion. And she clearly has doubts about their case. Trust me, that went well. Outside the courthouse, journalists surrounded Keisha. Cameras flashed. Microphones appeared in her face. Miss Williams, how do you feel about today's hearing? Do you have any comment on Mrs. Yoon's denial? Are you worried about losing the lawsuit? Sarah stepped in front of Keisha. My client has no comment at this time. Thank you. They pushed through the crowd to Sarah's car. Once they were inside, Keisha let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. How long until the judge rules? She asked. Could be weeks. Could be months. Courts move slowly. And in the meantime? In the meantime, we prepare for trial. Just in case. The ruling came 3 weeks later. Keisha was at work when Sarah called. We won, Sarah said. Keisha nearly dropped her phone. What? The judge dismissed the lawsuit. She ruled that your statements were protected speech and that the Yoon family failed to demonstrate actual malice or prove the statements were false. So it's over? This part is. They can appeal, but I don't think they will. The ruling was pretty definitive. Keisha sat down on the curb outside the grocery store, her legs suddenly weak. Thank you, she said. You did this. You stood up to them. You refused to back down. I just helped with the paperwork. After Sarah hung up, Keisha sat there for a long time, watching cars pass by, trying to process what had just happened. She'd won. Not just the lawsuit. But the thing underneath it. The principle. The idea that truth mattered more than money. That night, the news covered the ruling. The same reporter who'd done the original story about the slap interviewed Keisha via video call. How does it feel to win? The reporter asked. It feels surreal, Keisha said. I didn't do this to win. I did it because what happened to me was wrong and I didn't want it to happen to anyone else. Do you think this will change how the Yoon family operates? I don't know. But at least now people know the truth. What they do with that information is up to them. What's next for you? Keisha thought about it. I'm going to finish my nursing degree. I'm going to help people. And I'm going to remember that sometimes the hardest thing and the right thing are the same thing. The interview aired that night. By morning, it had been shared thousands of times. But Keisha barely noticed. Because something else was happening. The Yoon family was falling apart. It started with Mrs. Yoon's resignation from several charitable boards. Then business partners began severing ties. Then government agencies announced investigations into the family's business practices. The empire that had seemed untouchable was crumbling. And at the center of it all was Jean. He called Keisha 2 days after the ruling. I need to tell you something, he said. What? I'm testifying. Against my family. The district attorney contacted me about the financial crimes. The bribery. The tax fraud. All of it. And I'm going to tell them everything I know. Jean, you don't have to do that. Yes, I do. Because you were right. Silence is complicity. And I'm done being complicit. What will happen to you? I don't know. Maybe nothing. Maybe they'll charge me too. But at least I'll be able to look at myself in the mirror. When? The grand jury hearing is in 2 weeks. Those 2 weeks felt longer than the entire lawsuit. Keisha went to work. She attended her classes. She tried to live a normal life. But she couldn't stop thinking about Gene. About what he was risking. About how much courage it took to stand against your own family. The grand jury hearing was closed to the public. But the indictments that followed were not. Mrs. Yoon was charged with bribery, tax evasion, and fraud. Her brother was charged with witness intimidation. 2 other family members faced lesser charges. The news covered it extensively. Photos of Mrs. Yoon being led into court. Footage of protesters outside the family's properties. Interviews with people who'd been victimized by the family's practices. And through it all, Gene remained silent. Until he didn't. 3 weeks after the indictments, he held a press conference. Keisha watched it on her laptop. Gene stood at a podium wearing a simple suit, no tie. He looked tired but calm. "My name is Gene Cross," he began. "And I'm here today to take responsibility for my role in my family's crimes." The room went silent. "For years, I watched my family hurt people. I watched them bribe officials, intimidate competitors, and destroy anyone who got in their way. And I did nothing. I told myself I was powerless. That I couldn't change anything. That speaking up would only make things worse." He paused. "But I was wrong. I wasn't powerless. I was complicit. And my silence enabled their cruelty. A few months ago, a woman named Keisha Williams stood up to my family. She refused to be silent about what my mother did to her. And she inspired me to do the same. I'm here today to announce that I've provided testimony to the district attorney's office about my family's illegal activities. I've turned over financial records, correspondence, and other evidence that I hope will lead to justice for the people my family has hurt. I know this doesn't undo the harm that's been done. I know some people will never forgive me for waiting so long. But I hope that by speaking now, I can prevent future harm. And I hope that others who are in situations like mine, who feel trapped by family loyalty or fear, will find the courage to speak up too." He stepped away from the podium without taking questions. Keisha's phone rang immediately. It was Gene. "Did you watch?" he asked. "Yes." "Gene, that was terrifying." "It was terrifying. I was going to say brave. Can it be both?" "Yes. It can definitely be both." They talked for an hour. About the press conference. About the cases against his family. About what came next. "I don't know what I'm going to do," Gene admitted. "I don't have a job. I don't have family support. I'm basically starting from zero." "That's not true," Keisha said. "You have a clean conscience. That's not zero." Gene laughed. It sounded like relief. "When did you become an optimist?" "I'm not an optimist. I'm a realist. And the reality is that you did something incredibly difficult and you survived it. Everything else is just details." The trials took 18 months. Mrs. Yoon was convicted on multiple counts and sentenced to 7 years in prison. Her brother received 5 years. The other family members took plea deals. The family's business empire was dismantled. Properties were sold. Assets were seized. The buildings they'd owned were transferred to new management companies that operated legally. Through it all, Keisha continued her life. She finished her nursing degree. She got a job at a hospital. She moved into a better apartment. And she stayed in touch with Gene. He'd started over, taking a job with a non-profit that helped small businesses navigate regulations. It didn't pay well, but he said it felt meaningful. They met for coffee once a month. Sometimes they talked about the case. Mostly they talked about other things. Normal things. Movies. Books. The weather. 1 year after Mrs. Yoon's conviction, Keisha got a message on social media. It was from David, her old manager at the restaurant. I saw the news about the conviction. I wanted to apologize. I should have stood up for you that night. I should have called the police. I should have done a lot of things differently. I'm sorry. Keisha stared at the message for a long time. Then she wrote back. I appreciate the apology. I hope you do better next time. She didn't elaborate. She didn't need to. 2 years after the slap, Keisha was working a night shift when a patient was brought into the emergency room. Elderly. Korean. Heart attack. Keisha helped stabilize him while the doctor worked. When the crisis had passed and the man was resting, his daughter arrived. She was in her 60s, well-dressed, clearly wealthy. She thanked the medical team profusely. Then she looked at Keisha's name tag. Keisha Williams, she read. Are you did you? She stopped, struggling to find the words. Yes, Keisha said quietly. That was me. The woman's eyes filled with tears. My mother worked for the Yoon family for 30 years. They treated her terribly. Paid her poverty wages. Threatened her when she asked for time off. She died last year, still afraid of them. I'm so sorry. Don't be. Because of you, they faced consequences. Because of you, they can't hurt anyone else. The woman took Keisha's hand. Thank you. Thank you for being brave enough to speak up. Keisha squeezed her hand. I'm just glad it made a difference. After the woman left, Keisha stood in the hallway for a moment, catching her breath. She thought about that night in the restaurant. About the slap. About how small and powerless she'd felt. And she thought about everything that had happened since. The lawsuit. The trial. The convictions. The lives that had changed. All because she'd refused to stay silent. 5 years after the slap, Keisha was promoted to charge nurse. She was good at her job. Patients trusted her. Colleagues respected her. She'd found her place. Jean texted her the day she got the promotion. Congratulations. Want to celebrate? They met at a small restaurant, not Lotus Garden, which had closed years ago, and ordered dinner. I still can't believe how much has changed, Jean said. Good changes? Mostly. I'm not rich anymore. I'm not connected. I'm just normal. And it's strange, but also kind of wonderful. Do you miss it? The old life? Sometimes I miss the comfort. The security. But I don't miss the person I was. And I don't miss being part of something that hurt people. They ate in comfortable silence for a while. Can I ask you something? Jean said eventually. Of course. Do you ever regret it? Fighting back? Going through all of that? Keisha thought about it. About the lawsuit. About the fear. About the months of uncertainty. No, she said. Even knowing how hard it would be, I'd do it again. Because some things are worth fighting for. Like what? Like dignity. Like justice. Like the idea that everyone deserves to be treated with respect, no matter who they are or what they do. Jean nodded slowly. My mother never understood that. She thought respect was something you demanded, not something you earned. Do you ever talk to her? No. She won't see me. She blames me for everything that happened. She thinks I betrayed the family. Did you? Yes. And I'd do it again too. They finished dinner and walked out into the evening air. Thank you, Jean said. For what? For showing me that there was another way. For not giving up. For being exactly who you are.